All right, we're joined now, and we're grateful and excited to have House Speaker Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, it's been a while. It's good to have you on this morning.
Great to be back with you. Thanks so much.
I know you have a real job. You got your day job. I don't know if you can sit around watching TV, but I just don't think we can gloss over what we just saw with that state visit. And we're a divided country now, and you're fully aware of the feelings that President Trump conjures up, and you're a Republican, so I would imagine you have a different take on this. But is it overstating it to say that on the world stage, the current president seems to be being treated a little bit differently than the last one? And I don't know how far back you have to go to see this. Is it because they all are scared of him and what he can do, or is it respect? What is it? What do you attribute it to?
I think it's respect and not fear. I think they see a strong commander-in-chief. I think they understand that America is back in a bold and powerful way. We're projecting peace through strength again and decisive leadership. And I can tell you that our allies around the world deeply respect that. They rely upon it. Look, I just got back from the G7 speakers meeting in Ottawa, Canada, where my counterparts, the speakers of the other great parliaments around the world, meet annually and talk about all these matters. And it was a very different tone this year than there was when we gathered a year ago, because that was right before the U.S. election. And there was a lot of apprehension because I think, frankly, though many of them would not say it publicly, they were quite nervous about the prospect of Kamala Harris being elected president, because she would have continued the previous 4 years' policies, which created a lot of instability around the world and a lot of concern. And so our allies were quietly cheering for President Trump to win. And when he did, you saw the immediate about face that they all supported it. That our NATO countries went from murmuring about a 2% commitment to national defense investments to 5% each. It changed the entire setting of the world stage, and I think it's very important, and we say this all the time, and we mean it, and President Trump is projecting that. A strong America is good for everyone who loves freedom around the world. It keeps the terrorists and tyrants at bay, and it allows humanity to flourish, and I think President Trump has brought that back, and I think that's why he is only the first, I think he's the first president or first world leader to have been given a second invitation for a state visit like that, and I think it means a lot.
Speaker Johnson, the American agenda has had a way of having some backlash on some American companies, and we're kind of seeing that play out with NVIDIA this morning. We just gave a comment from NVIDIA's CEO where there's an article out today in the Financial Times that says Chinese authorities have told Chinese companies that they are no longer to use any chips or buy any chips from NVIDIA. They're to cancel the orders that they have. Probably because of the trade talks that are taking place right now and these issues of national security that are playing out between the two countries. Jensen Huang just saying that, we can only be in service of a market if a country wants us to be, pointing out that he's disappointed, but that there are larger items to work out on the agenda between the Chinese and the United States. What do you say to American companies that do business in China, do business internationally, and end up getting hurt on the bottom line as a result of what we're doing right now?
Well, it's not provocations from the United States that have started that. I mean, if China wants to, begin a trade war or, make these relations more complicated, it's their prerogative to do so. But we have to face China very seriously, and we do. The administration and the Congress understand that China has been working for a long time now to become a peer-to-peer adversary with the United States, and we're in a race with them, frankly, in so many areas, in AI and the advancement of new technology. And China is not a fair trading partner. I mean, they're a communist regime. They steal our intellectual property. They have no regard whatsoever for U.S. trademark law or any of the other provisions that make for fair trade agreements. So it is not the fault of the United States that there are these strained relations. It is the fault of China. And look, there are lots of complicated negotiations going on. We're concerned about their activities in the Indo-Pacific. We're concerned about the free countries in that part of the world and around the world. And our allies around the world share that same concern. So we're in a race with them. It's a very I think, counterproductive development for what they've announced about NVIDIA, and we've got to work through that.
Can we touch on TikTok? I realize no one knows all of the details on this yet. I don't know if you've been briefed, but obviously Congress passed the bill that was then signed into a law by President Biden, saying that TikTok either had to be divested or will be shut down in the United States. Do you know what will work in terms of how the logistics work? Will we know what's in the algorithm, even if we're licensing it from them? Will American engineers be able to see the algorithm and see what's getting fed to U.S. users?
I don't know those details, but I can tell you that there is great concern in Congress. That's why we voted for the divestment requirement, because it's a dangerous platform. It has been misused and abused. It has been used, frankly, against American youth in particular, flooding their feeds with this really dangerous material. I mean, they were promoting suicide to young teen girls at one point. I mean, it's a dangerous thing. And I think leaders in Congress have expressed our desire and our insistence that be ceased. And so I hope that the terms of this new arrangement accomplish that desired goal. But as you said, I haven't seen the details of it yet, so we're waiting to see.
Another possible shutdown, and I know your GOP has unveiled a mostly clean short-term funding patch. And I was going to make fun of Schumer and Jeffries, but you know what, Mr. Speaker, if we went back a couple of years ago, I can just change the names to a couple of Republicans, and I could, the quotes would be basically the same. This time, the Democrats want concessions on health care, I guess Medicaid or something that was in the BBB. So if you don't do what they want, you are responsible for shutting down the government. It's totally Republicans' fault because you're not doing what Jeffries and Schumer want you to do. So it's obvious that it's Republicans' fault.
Yeah, you framed that exactly right. Here's what's happened. We have been trying to force the government appropriations process back to what we call regular order, the way it's supposed to work. The 1974 Budget Control Act puts very specific dates and requirements on how this is supposed to be done so that Congress can be careful stewards of the precious treasure of the U.S. taxpayers. We do 12 separate appropriations bills, but the problem is, as we've discussed on your program, that hasn't been done that way in quite some time. We're sort of trying to force that back into the system. And so I'm delighted to report to you this morning that the House has done its job. The House Appropriations Committee actually has passed all 12 separate appropriations bills through the committee, 3 off the House floor. The Senate did 3. So you know what we've done? We're now forcing the mechanism of a conference committee. Eureka! That's the way this is supposed to work. When you have the House and the Senate with with the same bills that don't match exactly, you get a subset of people in those areas of jurisdiction who go into a room and work it out. That's how the system is supposed to work. So we're going to do that again. So we're moving forward productively. But the concern is that we've run out of clock to finish that process. So we need a short-term, very clean, continuing resolution to keep the government open so our appropriators can continue to do their work. Chuck Schumer and Jeffries and the others are opposing that. They're trying to insert partisan political preferences in the middle of a clean funding extension, and it doesn't make any sense, and they're going to lose that battle.
And in your defense, I remember when you were facing the same thing, and you were on this show, and you said, hey, this is what I got. These are my numbers, and you were, I think, sympathetic to some of the points that some of the more conservative Freedom Caucus types were making to you, but I think you told them, look, it's just not going to happen. We need to do this. And I guess that'll probably be what happens this time on the other side, probably.
Yes, I'm intellectually consistent. I know that's a rare thing in Washington as well, but that's what's happening here. What they're trying to argue for, not to get too deep in the weeds, is they're trying to insist that the Obamacare premium subsidies be continued. That's a December policy debate and decision, not a September funding matter. So they're trying to insert unrelated matters into the middle of a clean government extension, and I don't think that's going to work. If the government is shut down because they make that their last stand, it will solely be blamed on Democrats, because we're not playing politics with this at all. We're just trying to keep the lights on, and they're trying to insert this as a sort of last-ditch effort to regain their footing, because the party is reeling right now. They have no identified leader, platform, policy they politically advance. It's just everything is about hating Trump and hating Republicans. That's not really something to run on.
Mr. Speaker, the honor and respect you were talking about in the world for this president, I don't think what we're seeing from Putin in Russia, I'm not feeling it there. And I don't know. I mean, he's tried, pulled out a lot of stops, but isn't it time for something really tough this time around? Because it's almost like Putin throws it right back in the president's face, and just, I think after some type of positive signs, the largest bombing of the war occurred the very next day. I mean, when do we realize this is not happening?
Yeah, I mean, he can't be trusted. Putin is a former KGB operative and has never changed his modus operandi. He will lie straight to the face of other world leaders, and he has to our president. I will give President Trump credit. He has, as you noted, he's bent over backwards to try to bring about an end to that war, unjustified war of Russia on Ukraine, and he's led the world in that regard. I mean, the president has been very successful in brokering peace deals and other conflicts around the globe already in the last, 8 months, but this one is elusive. So I can tell you there's a big appetite in Congress to step in and do something very aggressive with regard to tariffs. But we need our allies around the world to go along as well. And that's what you hear President Trump articulating on the world stage. We can have economic sanctions, but if they're only coming from the U.S., it's not as effective. So we need everyone to participate together. I think there is a desire around the world to bring Vladimir Putin to heel. I know there is. Everyone wants this war to stop. And so we've got to join together and do that, and I hope that that's what will develop here in the coming days.
I was going to talk about the Fed decision, and maybe we still can. What happened last week was so gut-wrenching for all of us, and, well, actually, maybe not for all of us. What happened after it maybe was gut-wrenching. I know maybe you don't want to get into the fray, the political fray, but is there any path forward in your view? And seeing some of the response from the other side after it, I'm not optimistic. I don't know if you are.
I have to be optimistic. I've got to continue to try to keep a steady hand at the wheel here in spite of all the turmoil. Losing Charlie Kirk was an unspeakable tragedy for so many of us who are all good friends of his, were good friends of his. I've led 3 vigils already around the country, and I'll be going to the funeral on Sunday. People are feeling it acutely, and I can tell you it's kind of shaken the ground here. I mean, you have leaders on both sides who are very apprehensive about the state of our politics and the fact that political violence is now increasingly on the rise. And what we're trying to say in the middle of that, speak calm and peace over the situation, is remind everyone that resorting to political violence when you have a political disagreement flies in the face of our Judeo-Christian founding and our civil society and the American way of life. And so we've got to get back to sanity. No one of any platform or leadership place should be inciting violence or encouraging that kind of madness. And so I have been heartened. I am optimistic that there are leaders on both sides who are saying that, articulating it that way. But we need everyone to participate and turn down the volume around here. And I've been trying to do that since I got to Congress almost 9 years ago. So we'll continue to do that in the days ahead.
I guess we're running out of time. Who's your pick to replace Jay Powell? Just make it simple. We don't need to go through quarter-point cut, half-point cut, Lisa Cook. I don't know. Who's your pick? Who do you like? Will you give it to us? Give us a top 3.
I'm not going to.
Top 3.
I'm not going to handicap it. I'm not going to handicap it.
Who do you not want?
Look, I got to stay in my lane. I'm not going to try to meddle in the middle of that. It's like picking an SEC football coach. Those are very stressful jobs. I want the right person to emerge, but I trust those who are going to make that decision that they'll do it right. This is a volatile time. I think we need rates to come down today. I think that's obvious. It would help home ownership for young families, and it would allow them to start new families. Some of that's been delayed because of this. So we need some aggressive moves by the Fed, and the Congress, I think, is counting on it. We're hoping that's going to happen.
All right, back to work. Mr. Speaker, thanks once again for all your time this morning, and hope to see you. Hope it's not as long next time. See you again soon.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. God bless.
You're welcome.